Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's QC here. Today, we're diving into a seriously intriguing My Hero Academia what-if scenario. What if Deku became a blood magic vampire? If you love AU fanfics and seeing our favorite heroes in a whole new light, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a story. Let's set a little goal. Can we get 53 likes on this video? I know this community can do it. Alright, grab your earphones and let's jump into this wild new version of Deku's journey. Prologue. The midnight bite. Rain fell in cold sheets over Muzutafu, painting the empty streets in silver and shadow. Izuku Midoriya pulled his hood tighter, the faint glow of his phone screen barely illuminating his path. Tonight's patrol was supposed to be routine, a chance for Class 1A to experience real hero work, even if it was just keeping watch in the quiet neighborhoods surrounding UA. But something about the night felt wrong. Like the city itself was holding its breath. He paused beneath a flickering streetlight, jotting down notes for his hero journal. Patrol with Bakugo, Route 3B. Possible sighting of a suspicious figure. The words trailed off. A chill slithered up his spine. He looked up, searching the shadows. Nothing. Come on, Deku, he muttered. Don't let your imagination get the best of you. Stay focused. You can't be a hero if you're scared of the dark. A blur, a figure, faster than his eyes could track, slammed him into the alley wall. Izuku's breath left his lungs in a startled gasp. Cold hands pinned his wrists above his head. His mind whirled. Villain? Quirk? He summoned one for all, power sparking in his fingertips. But then he saw the eyes. Red, hungry, ancient, and a voice that was more whisper than sound, curling through the air like smoke. So much power, wasted on fear. Fangs glistened in the darkness. Izuku struggled, panic rising as his attacker leaned in. Pain blossomed at his neck, sharp, burning, nothing like the cuts and bruises he was used to as a hero in training. Something hot and cold all at once flooded his veins. He kicked, powered by adrenaline and desperation, and his attacker hissed, letting go. The villain's face twisted in annoyance, and something like pity, before vanishing into the rain with impossible speed. Izuku crumpled to the ground, hand pressed to his neck, blood seeping between his fingers. His heart thundered as the world spun around him. Above, thunder rumbled. He stared at the sky, breath shuddering, rain mingling with the blood on his skin. What just happened? In the distance, Bakugo's voice echoed, sharp with concern. Deku, where the hell are you? Izuku struggled to his feet, dizzy and shivering. Whatever had attacked him was gone. But the wound at his neck throbbed, and already he could feel something wrong inside him. A pulse of power, wild and hungry, whispering promises in the back of his mind. The night was silent once more. But nothing would ever be the same. End prologue. Chapter 1.1. Strange symptoms. Izuku Midoriya woke up gasping for breath, cold sweat soaking through his pajamas. He pressed a trembling hand to his neck, heart pounding. The memory of the attack haunted him. Those eyes, the icy grip, the pain. He fumbled for his phone, 3:27 a.m. too early. But he knew he wouldn't be able to sleep. He shuffled to the bathroom, glancing at his reflection. The bite marks were gone. Only two small, barely visible scars remained, already fading. He touched them, shivering. Did I imagine it? But the dizziness and the headache felt real enough. And so did the gnawing hunger in his chest, a craving he couldn't name. Breakfast was harder than usual. Izuku stared at the food in the dorm's kitchen. Rice, eggs, sausage, a familiar, comforting spread. But everything tasted dull, like chewing cardboard. He pushed his plate away, rubbing his temples. He could feel someone watching him. Bakugo, across the table, glared. What's wrong with you, nerd? You look like death warmed over. I, just didn't sleep well, Izuku lied, forcing a weak smile. Bakugo scoffed. TCH. You're gonna slack off and drag everyone down, aren't you? I'll be fine, Izuku promised, but even his own voice sounded hollow. That day's classes were a blur, his senses buzzed. The scratch of pencils, the hum of computers, the rustle of clothes, everything was so loud. It was like he could hear every heartbeat in the room, fast and anxious, calm and steady. During hero training, Aizawa paired them up for close combat practice. When Ida took a tumble and scraped his arm, Izuku's head snapped around, nostrils flaring before he could stop himself. He stared, transfixed, as a drop of blood welled on Ida's elbow. What is wrong with me? He thought, horror tightening his throat. A hand clapped his shoulder. Uraraka smiled, cheerful and bright. You okay, Deku? You look pale. He jerked away, pulse racing. Sorry. I'm just tired, really. He glanced away, not trusting himself to look her in the eye. Night fell, and with it came relief. The world outside glowed sharper and clearer than ever. On the dorm balcony, Izuku found he could see the campus lights in perfect detail, even the flutter of a moth's wings in the dark. But when he tried to walk in sunlight the next morning, it felt like his skin prickled, almost burned. He hid in the shade, pretending not to notice. Journal entry, that night, day 1. Something's happening to me. Bite mark, almost healed. Senses heightened. Night vision. Sunlight hurts. Am I sick? Or, did that villain's quirk do this? I'm scared. Izuku closed the notebook, hugging it to his chest. He thought he could hear a faint heartbeat echoing in the quiet. A rhythm not his own. In Chapter 1.1, Chapter 1.2, First Incident. Yue's gymnasium echoed with shouts, laughter, and the thump of training pads. The after-school sparring session was supposed to be routine, a way for Class 1A to unwind and practice control. But for Izuku Midoriya, every moment was agony. He stood to the side, gripping his arm, watching sweat bead down his classmates' faces. Their heartbeats pounded in his ears, loud as war drums. The metallic tang of blood, someone's cut, someone's scab, was everywhere. He swallowed hard, digging his nails into his palm, desperate to focus on anything else. Aizawa's voice cut through his haze. Midoriya, you're up. Pair with Kirishima. Kirishima bounded over, grinning. Let's go, bro. Just don't break me with one for all, yeah? He tossed Izuku a practice knife. The plastic felt slick and cold. They circled each other. Kirishima attacked first, his quirk-activated skin sparking in the gym lights. Izuku dodged, hard hammering. The smell of sweat, the pulse beneath the skin, so loud, so close. Kirishima lunged again, and Izuku instinctively blocked. The fake blade slipped, catching Kirishima's forearm. A thin line of red welled up, bright against his hardening skin. Suddenly, Deku's world narrowed to a point. He could see the blood, smell it, feel it calling to him. Hunger surged, a wild, primal urge. His hands trembled. He stepped forward, reaching out. He didn't know why, only that he needed to. Kirishima blinked, confused. Deku? You okay, man? Izuku's vision tunneled. The noise of the gym faded, replaced by the frantic drumbeat of Kirishima's heart. For a terrifying moment, he almost leaned in. Midoriya. A hand gripped his shoulder, Bakugo's, rough and grounding. What the hell are you doing? Izuku jerked back like he'd touched fire. Sorry. I just, Kirishima shrugged, already patting a bandage over his arm. You good, dude? Looked like you were gonna pass out. Bakugo's eyes narrowed, sharp and suspicious. Don't play dumb. You're acting weird, Deku. I'm fine, Izuku stammered, trying to keep his voice steady. The urge faded, leaving him cold and shaken. Aizawa called out, everything all right over there? Bakugo answered for him. He's just being a problem child. Nothing new. As the session ended, Izuku slipped away to the locker room. He pressed his head against the cool tiles, breathing hard. I almost lost control. He clenched his fists, fighting down the shame. Later, in the dorms, Bakugo cornered him in the hallway, voice low. Whatever's going on, you better get it together, or I'll beat it out of you. Izuku couldn't answer. He only nodded, grateful and terrified that someone was watching. In Chapter 1.2, Chapter 1.3, Seeking Answers, Izuku's hands shook as he logged into his laptop that night. The memory of Kirishima's blood and the overwhelming hunger that had threatened to consume him wouldn't leave his mind. He barely heard the laughter echoing from the common room downstairs. His world had narrowed to a single question, pulsing in his mind. What's happening to me? He opened a blank document and began to type. Symptoms: increased senses, smell, sight, hearing. Rapid healing. Bite mark nearly vanished. Craving for blood. Weakness in sunlight. Loss of control around blood. The cursor blinked, accusing. Craving for blood. He wanted to delete it, pretend it was just stress, just some weird side effect of the villain's quirk. But the hunger was real. Izuku scrolled through pages of quirk theory, medical articles, even urban legends. Most were useless. Nothing about quirks caused this exact combination of symptoms. Then, after hours, he found a forum thread on supernatural quirks so strange they mimicked the stuff of myths. One post caught his eye. Some quirks are so rare, people mistake them for curses. Cases exist of blood-based powers, extreme healing, or aversion to sunlight, usually attributed to vampirism. Most are rumors, but a few are real. Victims report sudden onset after being bitten or attacked. Beware villains with transmissible quirks. He read it again and again. Vampirism. A chill ran down his spine. Could it be? No. There's no such thing as real vampires. That's just fiction, right? He slammed the laptop shut, forcing himself to breathe. But his mind raced with memories, the predator's red eyes, the inhuman strength, the whispered voice. A tap on the door startled him so badly he almost jumped out of his seat. Midoriya, Uraraka's voice, soft and worried. Are you okay? You left dinner early again. He forced a smile as he opened the door, careful not to meet her eyes for too long. Sorry. Just working on my hero notes. She smiled back, concern lingering in her eyes. Don't push yourself too hard, okay? We're all worried about you. He nodded, murmuring thanks. She left, and he locked the door behind her, heart pounding. He turned to the mirror. His reflection stared back, pale, shadowed, but still him. But his eyes, just for a moment, glimmered red in the dim light. Later that night, Izuku's journal. It can't be true. Vampires aren't real. But what if they are? What if I'm turning into one? If I am, what do I do now? He closed the journal, hands clammy. The only thing he knew for sure was that he couldn't let anyone else get hurt. And whatever he was becoming, he'd find a way to control it. Or he'd die trying. In Chapter 1.3, Chapter 1.4, Keeping Secrets. Days passed, but the fear never left. Izuku stuck to the shadows, both literally and figuratively. He walked to class early, sat at the back, and kept his sleeves long even in the stuffy summer air. The smallest scrape or nosebleed from a classmate sent his senses into overdrive. It took all his willpower to focus on lectures, let alone smile or laugh with the others. He even started skipping meals, hiding out in his room with the excuse of studying. Food tasted like ash anyway. Only the rare steak Todoroki brought back from the kitchen gave him a flicker of relief, and even then, it wasn't enough. Every morning, he checked the scars on his neck. Every day, he watched for the subtle, impossible things. How his eyes glimmered red in the bathroom mirror, how the sunlight felt like pins on his skin, how his senses sharpened at night. He recorded it all in his journal, praying it was just stress or a delayed reaction to the villain's quirk. He knew he was lying to himself. Suspicion grew around him. Bakugo watched him more closely than ever, his glare sharper, his questions less subtle. You're hiding something, Deku. Don't think I won't figure it out. Izuku tried to brush him off, but Bakugo wasn't buying it. Uraraka and Ida offered friendly concern at checking on him, inviting him to group study or snacks in the lounge. Izuku just smiled and declined, hating how his voice shook. Worst was All Might. After class one afternoon, the former #1 hero stopped him in the empty hallway. Midoriya, my boy, is everything all right? You seem troubled. Izuku's heart clenched. All Might's concern was almost worse than Bakugo's suspicion. He wanted to tell him, wanted to confess everything. Instead, he forced a grin. I'm just tired, All Might. Maybe I'm overtraining. But I'll be fine. All Might gave him a searching look, worry clouding his eyes. But he only nodded and clapped Deku's shoulder, gently. Don't forget, even heroes need help sometimes. Nights became his only refuge. Izuku wandered the dorm grounds when everyone else was asleep, breathing in the night air. His vision cut through the darkness, and he could hear the faintest heartbeats of mice in the walls, of birds outside. The hunger was there, but so was a strange sense of calm. In the dark, at least, he didn't have to pretend to be normal. But every time he thought he could handle it, a new reminder crept in, a cut finger, a whiff of blood, a sudden thirst that made him fear what he might do. I have to control this, he told himself over and over. I can't let anyone find out. If they do, he didn't finish the thought. Journal entry, late at night, day 5, still no changes. Symptoms remain, sunlight aversion, blood cravings, senses heightened at night, friends worried. Can't tell them, if I lose control. I'll leave you a. Heroes protect people, not hurt them. He closed the book, listening to the hush of the sleeping dorm. He felt further from everyone than ever before. But he would protect them, even from himself. In Chapter 1.4, Chapter 2.1, Blood Magic Awakens. It was supposed to be a standard hero training exercise. Class 1A stood at the edge of Ground Gamma, the ruined cityscape gleaming under the afternoon sun. The objective was simple. Split into teams and rescue a civilian, Zero, acting the part with a dramatic flair, trapped on the top floor of a crumbling building, while evading simulated villains. Izuku fidgeted at the back of his group, still wearing his hood and keeping his eyes down. He could already feel the sunlight prickling against his skin, making him dizzy. But Aizawa was watching. There was no way he could skip out now. As the buzzer sounded, teams scattered through the maze of debris. Deku's group, himself, Uraraka, and Sato, made their way up a staircase, moving carefully as villain traps triggered around them. They rounded a corner. A support beam crashed down with a terrible crack, slamming into Sato's shoulder and pinning him to the floor. The impact sent dust and splinters flying. Sato cried out, blood welling from a gash on his head. Izuku froze. The smell of blood was sharp, electric, almost delicious. He shook, fighting the hunger, but Uraraka's panicked voice pulled him back. Deku, help me. He's stuck. He's bleeding. He hesitated for a heartbeat too long. Then something inside him snapped. His vision sharpened, the world focusing down to the thrum of Sato's pulse, the tang of copper in the air. For the first time, he didn't try to resist. Power surged through him, a strange, living energy. His hands tingled, and as he reached for Sato, red light flickered across his skin. Without thinking, Izuku pressed his palm to the wound. Blood pooled against his hand, and then, to everyone's shock, it moved, swirling up into the air in glowing threads, knitting itself over the wound. Sato gasped, watching in awe as the cut sealed shut, leaving only a faint scar. What did you? Sato stammered, but Deku wasn't finished. The fallen beam was too heavy for Uraraka to lift alone, but with the blood still flowing through his veins, Izuku felt a rush of unnatural strength. He grabbed the beam, hands slick and red, and lifted it with ease, as if the blood itself was fueling his muscles. Uraraka's eyes were wide, half terrified, half amazed. Deku, your hands, they're glowing. He stared down. Crimson patterns pulsed across his skin, then faded as quickly as they came. For a moment, all was silent. Aizawa's voice crackled through the speakers. Midoriya, report to Recovery Girl, now. Izuku snapped out of his trance, shame and fear crushing down on him. Sato was safe. The wound was healed. But everyone had seen. What did I just do? He thought, breath shaky. He looked at his trembling, blood-stained hands. It was undeniable now. Something monstrous and miraculous had awakened inside him. In Chapter 2.1. Chapter 2.2. The Thirst. Days passed since the incident in training, but the memory of blood, its power, its heat, wouldn't leave Izuku's mind. The whispers in his veins grew louder. Every heartbeat around him was a steady drum, every cut a temptation. He locked himself away as much as he could, but that only seemed to make it worse. Food was pointless. Water tasted like dust. His skin was pale and clammy, and his hands trembled when he tried to write in his journal. It's getting harder. I thought I could control it, but I'm hungry all the time. Not for food, for blood. I can't let anyone see. I can't lose myself. Sleep was impossible. When he finally drifted off, his dreams were full of running, chasing, drinking, red-tinted flashes that left him gasping and guilty when he woke. It came to a head during a patrol. A sudden call sent Class 1A into the city. Villains had attacked a shopping center. The pros led the charge, but Deku's team arrived just in time to see smoke billowing out of the shattered glass doors. His heart hammered, and every sense snapped into crystal focus. Inside, chaos reigned. Shoppers screamed. A villain wielding a serrated blade leapt from display to display, cutting down heroes in training who tried to stop him. Ida charged in first, but the villain caught him with a slash to the leg. Blood spattered the tile. The world blurred for Deku, all sound muffled except for the pulse of Ida's wound. He froze, staring. The smell filled his nose. Rich, intoxicating. Just a taste. One taste, and you'll be stronger. You could save them. You could. He stepped forward, eyes shining red, barely breathing. The villain turned, sensing him. You got a death wish, kid? For a moment, Deku almost didn't care. All he wanted was to drink, to take, to feel power rushing through him. Deku. A hand grabbed his arm, Uraraka's, trembling but fierce. Snap out of it. Ida needs help. Her words broke through the fog. Deku tore his gaze from Ida's bleeding leg, stumbling back as horror flooded him. What was he about to do? Uraraka stared at him, terrified, but she didn't let go. Midoriya, what's wrong with you? Deku gritted his teeth, forcing himself to focus. He shot forward, using the blood magic instinctively, not to feed, but to close Ida's wound, just as he'd done with Sato. The blood responded to his will, knitting flesh together, sealing the cut. The villain lunged again, but Deku turned on him, rage and hunger crackling together. His punch sent the villain sprawling. After the fight, Ida was safe. The pros rounded up the villain, but Deku stood shaking in the alley, hands stained red, heart pounding with hunger and shame. Uraraka watched him, worry etched deep in her face. Deku, I saw your eyes. They weren't normal. He couldn't meet her gaze. I don't know what's happening to me, Uraraka. I'm scared I'll hurt someone. I'm scared I'll hurt you. She stepped closer, voice soft but steady. Then let us help you. Please. You don't have to do this alone. Deku nodded, a tear slipping down his cheek. For now, he'd managed to hold back the darkness. But he knew the thirst wasn't gone. It was just waiting for another chance. In Chapter 2.2, Chapter 2.3, The Secret Spreads. Izuku tried to hold himself together, but after the shopping center attack, things spiraled fast. Rumors flew around UA. Students whispered about how Deku's hands had glowed with red light, how his eyes seemed unnatural. Some said they saw fangs when he bared his teeth in battle. He stopped leaving his room except for classes, and even then, he kept his hood low, gaze fixed on the floor. It didn't work. Bakugo had been watching him like a hawk ever since the gym incident. One night, when most of the class was in the lounge, Bakugo cornered him in the hallway. Talk. Now. I'm sick of this creepy, half-dead act. Tell me what's going on, Deku. Izuku opened his mouth to deny it, then saw the fire in Bakugo's eyes and slumped, defeated. Fine, he whispered, voice breaking. But not here. Bakugo dragged him to the deserted training field behind the dorms, arms crossed. Well? Spill it. Izuku's hands shook. Something happened during patrol. I was attacked. Bitten by something. I thought it was a villain quirk, but he swallowed hard, looking at the ground. I don't think I'm fully human anymore, Kakin. Bakugo's eyes widened for just a split second before narrowing. What the hell does that mean, Deku? So Deku told him. About the hunger, the blood, the way his body changed in the night. The healing, the aversion to sunlight, the way he almost lost control around Ida and Sato. Bakugo didn't interrupt, just listened, face locked somewhere between angry and scared. When Deku finished, Bakugo let out a slow, heavy breath. You're an idiot, he finally said, voice rough. You should have told me sooner. We're supposed to be heroes, damn it. If you lose it, you could kill someone. Izuku's shoulders slumped, shame burning hot. I know. That's why I've been staying away. I can't risk hurting any of you. Bakugo punched his shoulder, hard, but not as hard as usual. Moron. Heroes don't run away from their problems. We smash through them. I'll help you. Keep you in line if I have to. But you gotta keep fighting, got it? Izuku managed a shaky smile. Thank you, Kakin. They turned back to the dorms. But someone had heard the end of their conversation. Uraraka, clutching her phone, face pale. Midoriya, you're a vampire? She whispered. Izuku's mouth went dry. Uraraka, She rushed over, grabbing his hands. Why didn't you tell us? We could have helped it. Bakugo snorted. Don't go all soft. He nearly took a bite out of Kirishima last week. Uraraka glared at him, then looked back at Deku, her voice trembling. You're still you, Deku. Whatever's happening, you're not alone. Before he could respond, footsteps echoed on the path. Ida, Todoroki, and Jiro appeared, drawn by the commotion. Within moments, the secret was out, shocked whispers, questions, fear, and support blending into a storm. Aizawa's sharp voice cut through the chaos. What's going on here? Back to the dorms, now. Class 1A filed inside, stunned. In the dark, Deku felt the weight of every stare. Late that night, in the common room, Ida, Todoroki, and Jiro sat with Deku, Uraraka, and Bakugo. Ida pushed his glasses up, voice serious but gentle. We don't know what's happening to you, Midoriya, but we're your friends. If you need support or help controlling these urges, we're here. Todoroki nodded, looking thoughtful. I know what it's like to be afraid of your own power. You won't have to fight this alone. Jiro just gave Deku a thumbs up, awkward but sincere. If you turn into a bat, let me record it. Might make a killer album cover. Deku laughed, a genuine, relieved sound. For the first time since the bite, the hunger felt just a little bit lighter. But outside their circle, not everyone felt so safe. The secret was out. Soon, all of UA, and the world beyond, would know what he had become. In Chapter 2.3, Chapter 3.1, UA in peril. UA was restless. After the truth about Deku's transformation leaked among Class 1A, whispers quickly spread through the halls. Some students kept their distance, eyeing him with fear and suspicion. Others, those who knew the real Izuku, stayed by his side, their presence both a comfort and a painful reminder of how much he stood to lose. The teachers debated behind closed doors. Should they trust a student whose blood was no longer fully his own? Should they report him to the HPSC? Every day felt heavier, the tension growing like a storm on the horizon. That storm broke one gray afternoon. The first sign was the alarms. Klaxons howled through the school, sending students scrambling for shelter. Aizawa's voice crackled over the intercom, sharper than ever. This is not a drill. All students, initiate code Crimson now. Izuku's heart dropped. He grabbed his support gloves and ran, ignoring the burn of sunlight through the windows. He found Bakugo and Uraraka in the hall, both tense and ready for a fight. Villains. Uraraka asked, her voice trembling. Bakugo scowled. Big time. Looks like they're after us again. A massive explosion rocked the east wing. Windows shattered, smoke pouring into the sky. Izuku's nose caught the tang of blood and fire. Villains, at least half a dozen, storming the campus. But these weren't normal villains. Izuku saw them for what they were: pale, fast, fanged. Vampire quirks, like the thing that bit him. Midoriya, Aizawa called, running up with Vlad, King, and Cementos. Stay with your class. These attackers aren't ordinary. They're here for you. The villains moved with supernatural speed, crashing through the defenses as if they were paper. Students scattered, some fighting bravely, others fleeing. Deku's classmates rallied to his side. Bakugo unleashed his blasts. Todoroki froze the ground. Uraraka floated debris as shields. The lead villain, a tall figure in black, his eyes burning with ancient malice, stepped into the courtyard. His gaze locked on Deku. Found you, little fledgling. Time to come home. Izuku's blood ran cold. He felt the urge to submit, to obey the voice echoing in his mind, but Bakugo's shout jolted him back. Don't you dare go soft now, Deku. We're not letting them take you. The battle was chaos. The villain's blood magic twisted the environment, sending waves of crimson energy crashing toward the students. Deku felt his own blood stir in response, an instinctive counterforce welling up within him. He thrust out his hands, weaving threads of red through the air, forming shields, barriers, whips to deflect attacks. Every move drew on his strength, tempting him with more power, more hunger. The lead villain smirked. You're just like us. The more you fight, the more you'll crave. But Deku pushed through the hunger, focusing on his friends, on the faces that had stood by him. He fought not as a monster, but as a hero. The aftermath was devastation. The villains retreated, thwarted but not defeated, vowing to return. Students were injured, some seriously, but none were lost, thanks to Deku's desperate efforts. As the smoke cleared, the courtyard was a ruin. Deku stood at the center, panting, surrounded by classmates who watched him with a mixture of awe and fear. Aizawa approached, laying a firm hand on his shoulder. You saved a lot of lives today, Midoriya. But this is only the beginning. UA is in more danger than ever, and so are you. Deku nodded, blood pounding in his ears. For the first time, he understood. His curse was no longer just his own burden. It was everyone's, but he also saw the resolve in his friend's eyes. Whatever came next, they would face it together. In Chapter 3.1. Chapter 3.2, Facing the Truth. Night fell hard over UA. The campus was battered, windows shattered, scorch marks lining the stone. Students gathered in the dorm common room, some with bandaged arms, others sitting in shell-shocked silence. The usual warmth of the place felt fragile, ready to crack. Izuku sat by the window, staring into the dark. He could still feel the aftershocks of the battle, the rush of power, the hunger that gnawed at him every time he used his blood magic. He was shaking, and not just from exhaustion. He barely noticed as the teachers gathered. Aizawa, Vlad King, Cementos, Recovery Girl, and, in his thin, fragile form, All Might. Aizawa's voice cut through the murmurs. Everyone, listen up. We need to address what happened today, and what it means for UA. All eyes turned to Deku. The room seemed to close in. Bakugo broke the silence. He's the reason those freaks came after us. They want him, whatever he is now. Jiro spoke up, defiant. He saved us, Bakugo. If it wasn't for Deku, a lot more people would have gotten hurt. But the question hung heavy in the air. How much longer can we trust him? Todoroki stepped forward, looking at Deku with calm determination. Midoriya, Izuku, tell us the truth. About your powers. About what you're becoming. Deku hesitated, throat dry. He could lie. He could run. But something inside, maybe his hero spirit, maybe just desperation, pushed him to stand. He faced the room, heart pounding. I was attacked on patrol weeks ago, bitten by someone with a vampire quirk. Since then, I've changed. My body heals faster, my senses are sharper, and I have to fight the hunger. But I'm still me. I'm still fighting to be a hero. Some faces looked away. Some, Uraraka, Ida, Jiro, leaned in closer, listening. Aizawa watched, impassive but focused. All Might stepped forward, his presence filling the room even in his weakened state. Midoriya's always chosen to protect others, even when it meant putting himself at risk. That hasn't changed. I trust him. A hush followed. It was Uraraka who broke it, voice shaking but strong. I trust him too. He's not a monster. He's our friend. Others nodded, the tide slowly turning. Bakugo clicked his tongue, crossing his arms. Fine. But if you slip, I'll be the first to take you down, nerd. Aizawa sighed, his shoulders lowering a fraction. Midoriya, as long as you keep fighting this and keep being a hero, you have our support. But you need to keep us informed. No more secrets. Deku nodded, relief and guilt mixing in his chest. I promise. But even as the crisis faded for the night, a new reality had settled over UA. Deku was no longer just the hopeful hero in training. He was something else, a question mark, a symbol of fear and hope both. And the world would be watching. In Chapter 3.2. Chapter 3.3. Minter in the Dark. The next morning, UA was eerily quiet. Most of the campus was still recovering, students in the nurse's office, teachers reinforcing security. Izuku barely slept. The hunger lingered, pulsing beneath his skin, but so did a new resolve. He had told the truth. Now he needed to control whatever he was becoming. Aizawa summoned him to the staff room just after dawn. Midoriya, Aizawa said, rubbing his temples, you're not the first to face something like this. Izuku blinked, surprised. I'm not. Vlad King stepped out from behind the door, arms crossed and face serious. You know, I've got a blood-based quirk too. Not the same as yours, but I know what it's like to have power that scares people. Power that's hard to control. Izuku listened, hope flickering in his chest. Vlad King sat across from him, lowering his voice. When I was a kid, I had accidents. Hurt people, even if I didn't mean to. Blood is life, Midoriya. And blood quirks, they can get hungry in more ways than one. He leaned forward, eyes sharp but kind. But you can learn to live with it. You can even turn it into a strength. Aizawa added, Vlad King will be your mentor for the next few weeks. Special sessions, private training. You'll learn to use your blood magic, not just fight against it. Vlad grinned, a flash of fang showing, just for effect. Lesson 1. Fear is your worst enemy. Accept what you are, then shape it. If you run, you'll lose control. But if you own it, you'll surprise everyone, even yourself. They moved to a dark and used gym. Vlad taught him breathing exercises, meditation, how to sense his own heartbeat, then slow it, how to call on the blood magic when needed, but never let it call the shots. He showed Izuku how to focus the blood in his body, drawing it to his arms, to his legs, to his wounds. Under Vlad's watchful eye, Deku managed to heal a gash on his own hand without a tremor of hunger. They sparred. Vlad forced Deku to use his new abilities under pressure, in the dark, with distractions all around. At first, Deku struggled. His blood magic lashed out, wild and uncontrolled. But gradually, with Vlad's guidance, the threads of red danced to his will instead of against it. During a break, Vlad rested a hand on Deku's shoulder. You're more than a curse, kid. You're a hero. This power, it's part of you. Don't let anyone tell you it's all you are. Izuku nodded, breathing hard, but a faint smile broke through. For the first time since the bite, he felt hope. That night, he wrote in his journal, I'm not alone. I can learn control. I can use this power to save, not hurt. I just need to keep fighting, one day at a time. In the shadows, the thirst whispered. But Izuku Midoriya whispered back, louder than before, I am still Deku. I am still a hero. In Chapter 3.3. Chapter 4.1. Villain's Gambit. The warning came in the dead of night. Deku was up late, scribbling notes from his latest training with Vlad King, when the lights in the dorms flickered and died. An unnatural chill swept through the building. He sat up, every sense on edge, the blood magic in his veins pulsing with alarm. A sharp rapping sounded at his window. Deku dashed over, heart pounding, only to see a single crimson rose pressed against the glass. It was a message, one he remembered from the attack that changed his life. The League of Villains wasn't just back. Tonight, they were here for him. Alarms blared, but the halls were already filled with chaos. Shigaraki and Dabi led the charge, but they weren't alone. Flanking them was the vampire who'd bitten Deku, pale, tall, and exuding an aura that made Deku's blood freeze. Behind the villain, a swarm of lesser vampires and quirk-enhanced thugs crashed through UA's defenses. As Deku rushed into the chaos, his classmates were already under siege. Ida and Todoroki fought back-to-back. Bakugo hurled explosions, and Uraraka desperately shielded younger students. But the main villain cut through it all, moving with supernatural grace, eyes fixed only on Deku. He spoke, voice cold and commanding. You're not like them anymore, Midoriya. You belong to us. Come quietly, and I'll spare your friends. Deku shook, fighting the pull in his mind. The compulsion, the promise of belonging, of power. His blood magic surged, wanting to answer the call. He clenched his fists, stepping forward. You'll never make me your monster, he spat. I choose who I am. I choose who I protect. The villain only smiled, sharp and cruel. Then let's see how much your heroism is worth. With a snap of his fingers, the lesser vampires lunged, not at Deku, but at his classmates. Bakugo was pinned by two foes, teeth bared at his throat. Todoroki collapsed under a wave of crimson energy, struggling to breathe. Even Uraraka was cornered, her quirk flickering as fear gripped her. "Stop!" Deku shouted, blood magic flaring in his hands. "Let them go." The villain's eyes glittered. "It's simple, Izuku. Embrace what you are. Unleash your full power. Prove yourself a true child of the night, and I'll let them live. Or fight me as a hero and watch them suffer." Deku trembled. Every cell in his body screamed for blood, for release, for the freedom to become more. He could taste the power to save everyone, or destroy everything. He looked at his friends, battered, afraid, but trusting him. He remembered Vlad King's words, Aizawa's faith, All Might's pride, Uraraka's hand reaching for his in the dark. "I am Izuku Midoriya," he said, his voice shaking but sure. "I am not your weapon. I am not your monster. I am a hero." With a cry, he launched himself into the battle, blood magic and one for all crackling together for the first time. He fought back not for hunger, but for hope. The villain laughed, a sound sharp as broken glass. "Then show me the strength of your convictions." The clash began. Red lightning, shadow, and fire colliding in the ruined halls of UA. For Deku, it was more than a battle for survival. It was a battle for his soul. In Chapter 4.1. Chapter 4.2. The Crimson Hero. The world spun in chaos. Flashes of flame, shards of ice, blood-red energy swirling like a hurricane. UA's once proud halls were reduced to rubble and ruin as the League's vampire lord stalked closer, radiating power. Every heartbeat thundered in Deku's ears, not just his own, but the frantic pulses of every friend fighting for their lives. Bakugo was struggling, pinned by a pair of vampires. Ida crawled toward Todoroki, whose breathing was shallow and ragged. Uraraka, shaking but unbowed, was doing her best to float debris between the villains and the younger students. The vampire lord watched Deku, lips curled in a hungry smile. "You see, boy, you're powerless unless you accept what you are. This is the gift I gave you. Unleash it, and you can save them all." Deku's vision blurred. The thirst roared, louder than ever, a temptation and a curse. If he let go, if he stopped fighting the darkness for just a moment, he could break these monsters. He could be more than a hero. He could be unstoppable. But who would he become? He looked up, meeting Uraraka's eyes across the chaos. She was scared, but she still believed in him. Bakugo, battered but defiant, caught his gaze and growled, "Don't you dare give up, nerd. If you lose yourself, I'll drag you back, even if I have to blow up the whole building." Deku smiled. It was shaky but real. His friends were his anchor. He stood tall, the blood magic coiling in his arms, crackling with emerald sparks as One for All answered the call. Power raced through his veins, burning cold and hot at once. He spoke, voice ringing out like a promise. "I accept what I am. I won't run from it. But I decide how this power is used. I am not your monster. I am UA's hero." The vampire lord lunged, fangs gleaming. Deku met him head-on. The battle was pure mayhem. Deku dodged crimson blades, parried shadow claws, and answered every assault with a wild new fusion of his quirks. With a swipe, he conjured a shield of hardened blood, blocking an oncoming wave of enemy magic. He lashed out, sending blood-red whips crackling with green lightning, striking down vampires before they could reach his friends. When one of the villains tried to bite Bakugo, Deku flashed across the room, slamming him aside and closing Bakugo's wound with a touch. Each move cost him a surge of hunger, a risk of losing control. The line between hero and monster blurred with every heartbeat. Finally, the vampire lord caught him in a vice-like grip, hissing, "Give in. You can't win if you're afraid of the dark." Deku's eyes burned crimson and green. He drew in the power, all the power. For a split second, the hunger surged, threatening to overwhelm him. But then he thought of every person he loved. His mom, All Might, his classmates, the teachers who'd given him a chance, even when he didn't believe in himself. He roared, ripping free of the vampire's grasp. Blood magic and One for All erupted together, forming a radiant, swirling aura that shone like a second sun. It pushed back the darkness, burned away the compulsion, and struck the villain down. The vampire lord screamed, falling to his knees, shadows tearing away from his form. Deku stood above him, trembling, every vein glowing with light. "I am the Crimson Hero," he declared, "and I choose to save, no matter the cost." With one final burst, Deku purified the vampire lord's magic, breaking the spell that had held the other villains in thrall. The League of Villains retreated, leaderless and shattered. Silence fell. UA was in ruins. Deku dropped to one knee, spent, gasping for air, but his eyes were clear. Bakugo staggered to his side, grinning through bloody lips. "Took you long enough, idiot." Uraraka hugged Deku from behind, tears streaming down her face. "You did it, Deku. You're still you." He looked around, at his friends, his home. For the first time since that night in the rain, the hunger inside him was silent. In Chapter 4.2, Chapter 4.3, Aftermath, UA was quiet for the first time in weeks. The great battle was over. The halls, once a war zone of chaos and fear, now echoed with the voices of heroes, healers, and students banding together to repair what was broken. Emergency pro-heroes patrolled the grounds, and Recovery Girl worked tirelessly, tending wounds and checking on everyone, especially Deku. Izuku sat on a cot in the nurse's office, hands bandaged, energy drained to the bone. The scars from the battle ran deeper than skin, but for the first time, the hunger inside him was little more than a whisper. He stared at his reflection in the window, tired, pale, with faint crimson rings around his irises. He didn't flinch from it anymore. Aizawa entered, his face as unreadable as ever. "You did good, Midoriya," he said quietly. "Saved lives. Stopped the villains. You proved you could control it." Deku's voice was hoarse. "But do I still belong here?" Aizawa sat beside him, sighing. "That's not my decision alone. The faculty and the Hero Public Safety Commission will want answers. But today, the only thing that matters is you kept your promise to yourself and to your friends." He left Deku with a rare, reassuring nod. Bakugo, Uraraka, and Ida crowded in next, ignoring protocol to surround their friend. "You better not get all sappy now," Bakugo grumbled, though his voice was thick with relief. Uraraka smiled through tears. "Everyone's talking about you, Deku. The hero who saved UA, even after everything." Ida adjusted his glasses, looking proud. "You have demonstrated true heroism, Midoriya. The path ahead will be difficult, but you have our trust and our friendship." Outside, the world buzzed with news. UA held a press conference. Principal Nizu addressed the nation, careful but proud. "We faced a great threat, and it was our students, and one in particular, who overcame it with courage and self-control. UA stands by its heroes, no matter the shape their quirk takes." Reporters demanded answers about the vampire hero. Was he safe? Would he be allowed to continue as a hero? Was he a risk to society? For every worried question, there was a voice of hope. "I saw him protect us," a rescued student declared on TV. "He healed people. He's a real hero," others insisted. Deku was summoned before the faculty, HPSC, and even All Might. He answered every question honestly. "Yes, I still struggle with the hunger. Yes, I accept help and training. No, I will never stop fighting to be a hero." All Might, tears in his eyes, squeezed Deku's shoulder. "Society needs hope, young Midoriya. Sometimes it needs to be reminded that real heroes rise above even the darkest odds." That night, in the dorm common room, Class 1A gathered around Deku, toasting him with cans of melon soda and snacks. Laughter and warmth filled the air, washing away the shadows. Deku gazed around the room, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. He raised his drink, smiling for the first time in what felt like forever. "I'm not perfect. I'm not even sure what I am anymore. But I know this. I'll use whatever power I have to protect people. I'm still Deku. And I'm still a hero." Cheers filled the room, echoing through the night. For now, the thirst was gone. But even if it returned, Izuku Midoriya knew he would never face it alone. In Chapter 4.3, Chapter 4.4, A New Path, the first rays of dawn slipped through UA's repaired windows, casting warm light over the campus. The school was still recovering, but hope, real, stubborn hope, had returned. The faculty and the Hero Public Safety Commission had given their verdict. Deku could stay, under close supervision and with continued training. The risk was real, but so was his promise. Walking through the halls, Deku felt eyes on him, some wary, some odd, most simply curious. No one avoided him anymore. Some students even waved. He smiled back, a little shy, but stronger than before. In a private meeting, Aizawa had offered his hand. "UA exists to teach people how to be heroes, no matter where they start. You belong here as long as you keep choosing the right path, Midoriya." Deku shook his teacher's hand, determination burning in his chest. "I won't let you down. I'll prove that anyone can be a hero, even someone like me." His classmates rallied around him. Bakugo nudged him in the shoulder. "Don't get cocky just cause you saved us all, bloodsucker. Still gotta beat me in training." Uraraka beamed. "Let's show everyone what UA heroes can do together." Ida offered his usual, formal salute. lead us, Midoriya. Not just as a hero, but as a symbol of overcoming adversity. Even some of the students who had once feared him now looked at him with admiration. Deku took it all in, heartful, and made a silent vow. I'll use my power to help others, not just because of my quirk, but because it's who I am. He wrote one last entry in his journal that night, sitting beneath the stars. My life changed forever the night I was bitten. I gained power I never asked for and burdens I never imagined. But I also gained new friends, new hope, and a deeper understanding of what it means to fight the darkness, inside and out. Maybe being a hero isn't about having the perfect quirk, or even being perfectly good. Maybe it's about getting back up every time you fall. About choosing to protect others, even when it's hard. Even when you're afraid of what you might become. I am Izuku Midoriya. I am a hero, and I'll keep walking this new path, no matter how dark it gets. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, Deku felt ready. Whatever lay ahead, he would meet it with everything he had. Hero and vampire, light and shadow, surrounded by friends who believed in him. And somewhere, deep within, the darkness finally quieted, not defeated, but accepted, a part of him that would walk with him into tomorrow. In Chapter 4.4, Epilogue, The Hero in the Shadows. Years had passed since the night Izuku Midoriya first felt the bite of darkness. The city skyline glimmered beneath a moonlit sky. The world was a different place, villains still lurked, and new threats rose with each generation, but so did hope. People spoke of a hero who fought from the shadows and stepped boldly into the light, whose power was both fearsome and gentle. On a rooftop high above Mizurufu, a figure stood silhouetted against the stars, cape fluttering in the wind. His eyes glowed faintly red in the dark, but they shone with determination and kindness. Below, sirens wailed and chaos threatened. A young hero, trembling and injured, looked up in awe as the Crimson Hero landed beside her. "Don't be afraid," Deku said softly, offering his hand. "Sometimes, you have to face the darkness to remember how bright you can shine." She took his hand, steadying herself. Around them, civilians cheered. The legend of the vampire hero had become a symbol not of fear, but of hope. Children dressed as Deku on Halloween, and blood-based quirks were no longer whispered about in shame, but celebrated for their potential. In the years since his transformation, Izuku had never lost his thirst. He still struggled, still fought to control it every day. But he used it to heal, to rescue, to protect. With every act of heroism, he proved the darkness inside didn't define him. On lonely nights, Deku sometimes wrote in a battered old journal, "I used to believe I could only be a hero if I was perfect. But I've learned, heroes are born in the space between fear and courage, hope and despair. The shadows walk with me, but so does the light. And I'll keep fighting, always, for a world where everyone can be a hero, no matter what's inside them." High above the city, Izuku Midoriya, UA's Crimson Hero, watched over a world he had helped change, his resolve shining brighter than ever. And that's a wrap on today's story. What if Deku became a blood magic vampire? I hope you enjoyed listening it as much as I loved putting it together. If you did, don't forget to smash that like button, drop a comment sharing your thoughts or your own what-if ideas, and subscribe if you haven't already. Your support really helps these stories reach even more MHA fans. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Plus Ultra.